Yesterday we were talking about, is it possible to be aware of one when we're speaking, when we are speaking? Well, it's a bit tricky, but this, when we're all sort of waiting and sort of half expecting to be brought to silence, is a good opportunity, isn't it, to see how words can bubble up. That's just part of being social and decent together. It's quite normal. And while we've still got quite a one ear listening to this background, we can see quite clearly that there is this movement of talking and this background of stillness, both present. Of course, the trouble is the talking tends to get more and swallows us up, and then we forget this. But so we must make use of any practice, that any opportunities we get to realize that these two worlds are coexistence, the world of silence, the world of no change, the changelessness, the eternal world, and this all too temporal, changeable lower world. And the work is simply to become ever more acquainted with this higher world. Which one of you, after meditation this morning, you said a lovely thing. You said, the blissful beyond, which just about sums it up, doesn't it? The blissful beyond. And I do love this word beyond. It's almost the only word one needs, isn't it? That whatever the situation, there's always this beyond. Beyond. I was thinking before the world got measured up by clever people with all this, everything is measured now, these days. The word yonder, or just yon, was much more used in conversation, wasn't it? Must have explained everything. Yonder, where's yonder? Over there somewhere. Not within my orbit. Yeah. Well, that's, you hardly need telling to reconnect with this silence, which leads so easily to space. We are going to be interrupted constantly by people either bringing coffee up and down or going to the toilet, which is just behind us. But there again, we just have to let it be contained within presence without disturbing us. Silence. Bless you, dear. Well done. Thank you very much. For those that aren't too familiar with it, silence is such a useful starting place. And silence doesn't necessarily mean cutting out noise, so much as this wonderful word beyond. The noise downstairs doesn't really matter, does it? If we are silent here and feel this greater silence contains the noise that's going on, just like it contains my voice. Sounds in silence, doesn't it? The noise sounds in silence, doesn't it? Always. No matter what the noise. No matter what the disturbance. Extraordinary, but it's so simple and obvious when you look at it, isn't it? And you see it. And the silence is coexistent with the space. So there we have freedom. Where does the space end? It's endless, isn't it? So where does freedom end? And it's right here, isn't it? Freedom, peace, freedom, peace, presence. Presence of what? Or shall we just call it this? Beyond words, beyond knowing even, that we can't define, and yet it's so obvious and simple, isn't it? If we name it, we tend to put a little box around it. If it's love, it isn't freedom, or is it? Or are the two the same? It's infinite freedom, infinite peace, infinite presence, the infinite unchanging, the eternal, the love that never ends, never says no, does it? You're not so sure. And, it certainly isn't so much a learning as an experience, isn't it? What's the long word? Experiential. And with a bit of luck, if once one gets the taste of it, one wants to keep going back there. It seems to say to us, come, doesn't it? It's inviting, it's welcoming. There's never anything unwelcoming about it. It really is. It's, as Jesus says, I am ever, always with you. That's really the end of what I have to say, dears. The end of the subject, isn't it? This total simplicity, always present. Unless any of you can think of any complications, give us something to talk about. Looking at me, you're all looking with a knowing smile in your eyes. So you all get it, don't you? All of you. Well, any child could, who couldn't get it? It's so simple, isn't it? So childishly simple and available.
Yet you can't explain it.
You can't know exactly, dear. Exactly, dear.
Beyond.
Beyond, yes. Let's just follow that along a little bit, Brian, because we live in a world very full of explanations, don't we? One expert after another is explaining everything, isn't it? And so let's just realize that this is undivided, isn't it? It's singular. And once we start trying to explain it, we fall into what's also a useful word, a duality. We fall into, from one, we fall into two. Division, separation, and the whole Pandora's box of problems from separation. I'm separate from you, from everybody else. We think differently, You've got this, I've got that, I think this, you think, and hence the world falls from consciousness, falls from higher to a lower divided consciousness, which is exactly the story as told in the Bible, isn't it? How Adam, who was one singular, fell into the multi-dividedness of this world we live in and call life, which actually is, when you begin to get the gist of this, which is life with a capital L, which is life with a little l. And because we are divided from the source of life, which is this, so we die. So this is mortality. So life has a limited span, and we die and dies. So the wages of sin, if you think of sin as absence from this, not Phil's favourite word, but one of mine that keeps bubbling up. The wages of absence from presence is death. Pause for a drink. This is why it's important to try to, while we're speaking, to have some awareness that this robotic thing called mouth and tongue is making noises, but it can be observed. So you begin to discriminate between this transitory robotic world, because after all, most human behavior is largely robotic, isn't it? The things we say, our interactions, they're just, many people have thought of this world as a puppet show, really, who's pulling the strings. And this higher consciousness, and of which we get glimpses out of throughout our lives. And furthermore, think of the traditional basis of Christianity, salvation of the soul. What can we take beyond the grave? Which is so obvious to me now at the end of life. It's obvious what's dying out, isn't it? But does this die out? Of course it doesn't. But to come back to your comment out loud, well, you've been a loyal, devoted member of the work for years, dear. It really just means practice, doesn't it? So that once you really get the bit between your teeth, and when you have some sort of clarity about what I'm talking about, that it isn't too difficult. But in the early years, it can be very difficult to sit down, even just a few minutes a day, and meditate, with all the pressures of life. This is when the difficulty is. Just, reading the Bible used to be a standard part of life, but it isn't now. So people don't even go to church on Sundays. All these habitual habits that kept us pointing in this direction. That's what they served a purpose, didn't they? They just kept reminding us that there's something else other than the daily round. So I don't say it's easy, but if you're really interested in the big questions of what life's all about, may that be our motivation to keep, as Jesus said, seek and ye shall find. But somebody's got to, you've got to have the motive to either come to a meeting like this or go wherever you can and get a push in this direction, encouragement to keep going. Or just sheer desperation with this world and looking for any way out of the sinking ship. What does Jesus say? Jesus doesn't mention anything about sitting in a proper position or any of these outer things. He says, blessed are the pure in heart, dear. The pure in heart. Purity of heart counts for more than anything. You can go through all the yoga exercises and special diets and standing on your head, and it's so what? Blessed are the pure in heart, dear. The pure and simple. But let's come back to this, talking about doubts. Let's find again. You see, we forget it. It sort of moves into the background, doesn't it? And before we know where we are, we're taken by the discussion, and we lose it. So we need to keep coming back and just sharpen up our perception. But find first of all the silence, the space. There we are. It takes a few moments to sort of refocus, doesn't it? Here we are, this. Now, let me just ask you, is there any doubt about it? Full of lives of doubt we live, don't we? We doubt everything, don't we? We doubt our leaders, we doubt everything. Whether to wash our hair or not, or it's not everything in life is affected by doubt. It's extraordinary one finds this. There's no question, is there? There's no doubt. Is there? It's, in other words, it's duality, isn't it? We've fallen from this singularity, which I like to use the word these days, I just like to describe it as this. You can sort of perceive oneself literally falling down from this. Well, what's he talking about, you know? And then questions, doubts arise. I'll give you a little example. Just, I've done quite a lot of this sort of thing, finding myself sitting in front of a group with a microphone and Phil looking at me, expecting me to talk about something. And Phil knows that, how do I know what to say? I mean, I don't have notes, I haven't prepared anything, no idea how to say. But I've learned to keep coming back to this and sit here before a meeting starts and try to be present, which isn't always so easy. And somehow it flows from that. And when I lose the presence, then I get in a muddle. As long as I keep more or less anchored in it, then somehow the meeting seems to have meaning, doesn't it? Seems to have a validity about it. And something doubtless arises that we can all share. And you've obviously picked that up from watching videos back in Ireland. As probably most of you have. Something that rings true. That's another word, incidentally, that we can use for this. And all these words, by the way, none of them can be explained, can they? Can we explain silence, or stillness, or space, or truth, or beauty, or love, or freedom? Can't explain any of them. We all in a sense know what I'm talking about, but you can't explain them. Nobody knows what they are, do you? Do we? Hence, I love this phrase from the Bible also, the wisdom of man, you see. Man, this fallen creature, this duality, the wisdom of man is foolishness to higher consciousness, or what we call God. These are those who hunger and thirst after righteousness. What is righteousness? For they shall be filled. Another word is light, isn't it? What is light? I'm looking, in each of your eyes there's light, isn't there? Light shining in recognition of what we're talking about. And in a way this is more convincing than anything that comes out of the mouth, isn't it? Struggle on, my dear. Nobody says this life is easy. Struggle on. The world will laugh at you, ignore you, say all sorts of nasty things in return. It's been the way of everybody that treads this way had to deal with this. Some people have tried to turn away and live as a hermit somewhere. Well, I had dreams of that as a young man, but it didn't work out that way. So we find ourselves in this world. We have to manage as best we can. It isn't always easy to be in the world and yet not entirely of the world. You know, I know Phil doesn't like me using this word. Phil, sin. I'll try to avoid using it and sort of call it by another name. But you see, just sort of try to absorb the history which is spelled out in the Bible. You see, in the beginning there was paradise, and Adam, the singular man, lived with God in paradise. And then the story is that he was tempted and fell. But a woman was made, so that was the beginnings of duality, but perhaps in those days they weren't actually divided. Because this is part of the great discovery, isn't it? That as we draw nearer to this, is man and woman really quite as divided as we normally think they are? Or are they part of the general merging into this singularity? Well, that's another subject really to be explored. But I lost the thread. Yes. Well, we've fallen. Well, the world is nothing if not lawful, L-A-W, lawful. And the primary law is cause and effect, isn't it? So, if we leave paradise, apparently by our own self-will, our curiosity to eat forbidden fruit, curiosity, remember, killed the cat, and we're fascinated by explanations, questions leading us ever further into duality and division. There is a consequence. We find ourselves further and further away from paradise and more mixed up in this bottomless pit where the blind lead the blind, what's called in the Bible the powers of darkness. Most of you will have seen me try to demonstrate this before, but I'll do it again. If I turn to look at the sun, you see, my face is lit, isn't it? And I'm in the light. But if I turn this way, what happens? You get it? I'm in the shadow, aren't I? So I project the works of darkness. If I turn back this way, once again I'm in the light, and what happens to the shadow? Well, this is really to my mind, a very simple explanation of what's called sin, which people have been torturing themselves for thousands of years trying to explain it. It's actually as simple as that. We turn from the light into this world of darkness, where, of course, we don't know, hence explanations and all the complications of the curious mind. We turn from simplicity into complexity, and hence the consequence. The laws change cause and effect. And the remedy, as Jesus very simply says, is to repent, which is to turn back to the light. Just as simple as that. In other words, we're all talking, we've forgotten the point of this meeting, and then we remember to come back to this, which is simply being present, here and now. Because where is God, whatever God is? Is he sometime in the future? Water under the bridge? Or here? God is present, isn't he? God is with us. And this, we've only got to remember, and this once more becomes obvious and apparent, doesn't it? We don't have to bring it back from anywhere, it's here. It is with us. This light in your eyes is here. I didn't have to pull it out of you. It was just in your simple response to what I'm talking about. So, dear, the price of losing this is to fall back into the muddle. Separation.